To welcome back Governor Mitt Romney. He'll always be governor to me. He's now Senator Mitt Romney. Welcome back, Governor. Good to have you.
It's good to be with you again.
I've been keeping Mrs. Romney in my prayers because she is one of those seniors with an underlying medical.
The family is well, and Ann is doing terrifically. She keeps on writing.
Dr. Fauci told me, you may not remember this, Governor. The first time on Tuesday, Dr. Fauci told me I can't go see my grandchildren. My daughter is alone, and my son-in-law is deployed, and there are three of them. I can't go help her. Are you guys on lockdown from your wonderful? You've got like a gang of grandkids.
Yeah, I've got 25 grandkids now, and but the truth is, I can see them as long as we keep social distance. But I'm in Washington, and they're all over the country, so I can't see them in person yet.
And you are Utah's senator. They had an earthquake yesterday. How is Utah coping with the earthquake?
Well, they had to close the airport down because water main broke at the airport, and so they closed it down for most of the day. But it's back operating. It was 5.7 on the scale, which is severe, but nowhere near like what we've seen in California in the past. So things are back to normal.
All right. Now, Senator Romney, I said yesterday or 2 days ago in a Washington Post column, I'm so glad you were in the Senate for a time such as this because you've got to help the private sector. I doubt there's anyone on the Hill who knows more about the private sector. There may be people equal to you in your experience, but I don't think anyone surpasses it. What do you think the Senate ought to do to save the private sector from this period, this season of shock?
Well, there's no question that what we need to do is to get some funding out to small businesses. I recognize it's going to be in the form of a loan, but those small businesses that keep their employees and keep paying them, that loan is almost certainly going to be forgiven down the road. So we want to get money out to restaurants and salons and all the small businesses that are having to shut down as a result of the social distancing we've got going on. And then there are some larger enterprises which are critical to our economy, critical to our national security, like airlines. People aren't flying, but we don't want all the people that work there to be laid off, and we don't want the airplanes to stop flying, so we're going to need to get some funding to them as well. And I hope our Democrat friends understand that the reason we're doing this is not only to save the economy, but to save jobs of millions of Americans.
Now, Governor, there are many industries that are critical, and I know the airlines are one of them, but I think I'm in a critical industry, and I know there are a lot of mom and pop radio stations out there. Indeed, there are a lot of networks out there that are suddenly without advertising. Are you going to go big in terms of identifying where those businesses are and actually, I mean, NBC doesn't need any help, and Netflix doesn't need any help, but there are a lot of people who need help.
No question about it, and that's why this rescue package that we're working on in the Senate is designed to provide funding to any business of 500 employees and smaller. All right, so people can go to their local bank. It'll be an SBA guaranteed loan. The loan will surely be forgiven down the road if people maintain their employment, and that's going to be designed for guys like you, but also for the enterprises that I described, little restaurants, salons. But there are a lot of enterprises that are hurting right now, and they're going to start laying off people unless we get some money to them. We'd rather have the employers paying those people than have them show up at the unemployment office.
Now, Senator Governor Romney, let me ask you about bigger companies, but they're not giants, but say Hillstone Restaurants. They've got 2,000 employees, 4,000 employees. They're above the employee, but they're a restaurant business. Will they get help?
Well, one of the packages is designed to help larger enterprises, and that's the one that I mentioned with regards to airlines. It actually will have a facility a great deal larger than just what's needed for airlines.
Oh, good.
It'll be administered by the Treasury Department, and it'll be for those enterprises that are larger, that are in difficult circumstances. How many will qualify is a real question. But those enterprises that are really key to the economy, key to national security, key to our infrastructure will surely be high on the list.
That's great because I know a lot of the restaurants in the country are in chains, and those chains have a lot more than 500 employees, but they're all going down if we don't get them bridge loans. Now, Governor, can I talk? You, as in your Bain days, you knew what capitalization meant. I think right now we can recapitalize the defense industry for 10 years and send a signal that would be so incredible if we pre-purchase the Columbia-class submarine, the the B-21 strategic bomber. Are you helping the defense people understand what recapitalization and transfer of the funds for 10 years of acquisition would do or mean?
Well, I'm not on the Armed Services Committee, but I do talk to the folks on that side of the aisle or on that side of the building on a regular basis, and something which I don't think we understand, which is people around the world say, wow, America spends so much money, more than anybody else on national defense. But do you know what percent of our national defense spending actually goes to procurement? 15%. 15%, Hugh. The great majority of our money is going to veterans, going to current members of the armed forces, going to operations and maintenance. Now, there's some research as well. That's about 10% R&D, but only 15% is going to procurement. And if we're going to get serious about improving the base of our military equipment, we're going to have to make a much more substantial investment than we are right now.
What do you think, Senator Romney, of forward appropriating the acquisition of the entire F-35 fleet, of forward appropriating the B-21? The B-21, I just asked General Deptula, it'd be about a $100 billion transfer to Northrop Grumman that they'd have to bank, but the signal it would send to the country would be so extraordinary. That's recapitalization. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's an interesting idea. No question about that, Hugh. Although right now, I think the Senate is entirely focused on what do we do to get money to people who need it. We talked about helping small business and large business. I'd also note that we're talking about getting money to individuals that need it to help rebuild the economy when we come out of this COVID-19 crisis. So we're talking about, if you will, giving people a rebate, sending back $1,000 a person, $500 per child to people. That may change in negotiations with Democrats, but that's the priority right now. And then we'll probably get on to, I think, a very good idea of making long-term commitments to our military foundation.
Well, I love Romney Bucks. That's what it's been christened. That was your idea. I think that's a great idea to, again, ease immediate, but I'm trying to send signals to the economy. I'm hoping you will send signals. Let me talk to you about the education sector. I talked to a college president, not Hillsdale. I haven't talked to Hillsdale's fine. They got a great endowment. But you're a BYU grad. You're a Stanford guy. You know every institution from large to small, from preschool to graduate programs has been shaken. Anybody looking at that? Anybody thinking about a per pupil grant, for example?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if anybody is looking at that right now. The Health Committee on which I serve is focused right now on health care and getting funding, getting masks, getting tests, getting funding to hospitals. We got a lot of hospitals that are closing down their elective surgeries. That's where they make their money. They're opening doors to COVID-19 patients. So getting help there is the highest priority. But, there's no question the educational institutions are not going to be getting a lot of checks coming in from their students because students have gone home. So there's going to need to be some help there at some point as well.
Yeah, I just think everybody is kind of staggered. Now, talk to me about the financial literacy of your colleagues. You got great legislative colleagues, but they've been on the Hill for a long time. It's a seniority-based system. Are they actually listening to you as a guy who did this? I mean, this is what you did long before you became governor of Massachusetts. Do they get that? Or are they open to the ideas?
Well, there are 53 Republicans, and Mitch McConnell has recognized that the normal process of committees dealing with each of these issues is a process that is too slow. You've heard the expression in the law, which is the wheels of justice grind slowly. Well, the wheels of Congress grind even slower. And so Mitch has cut through all this by organizing task forces, 3 or 4 task forces dealing with each aspect of the rescue effort. And I'm on one of the task forces, which helps individuals and families. And we're working pretty quick. We've each drafted and will have on Mitch McConnell's desk this morning legislation on each of the major initiatives I've just described. And that's record speed for this institution. Now, of course, we got to deal with our Democrat friends and see what they want to do and compromise and make something happen. But yeah, I'm sure I get at least as much listening time as I deserve. There are a lot of us that have points of view, but also there's a really superb staff that has worked on many of these issues for a long time. So we're getting a lot of input from people in the private sector, from individuals that are weighing in and calling in. So a lot of input, and I'm not by any means the know-it-all in this institution. I do have some perspective, and I don't feel like it's being ignored.
Well, your humility is admirable, but your expertise is more important to me than your humility. Just tell people they don't know what they're talking about, please. Now, Governor, I want to turn to something else. You know how much I respect you. I think there is a problem in addition to flattening the curve of the disease. We have to flatten the cruelty curve and the partisanship curve in the country during this period of time. Do you see that happening?
I think it's very hard in a society as divided as we are right now and as polarized around politics as much as we are, for people to put down their political brush. And you're seeing that on both sides of the aisle. I don't think it sits well with the American people. I think the American people want to see answers. People across the country are very concerned, as well they should be, for their health. They're also concerned about what's happening in the market and in the employment sector, because they know that what happens in the market is going to affect jobs and paychecks. So people are concerned, and they really do want to see Washington come together and get the job done. I think that's why the first package that was passed yesterday, even though it's a small package, it was a step forward. It was bipartisan. Nancy Pelosi and the Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin worked it out, and Senate passed it. I think that's a good signal that we're working, and hopefully we'll have more good signals coming down the road here.
Yeah, I saw Governor Cuomo compliment President Trump and President Trump compliment Governor Cuomo. And I tweeted more of this, more. Do you think we're going to get more of that?
Well, it depends on what happens, of course. I think a lot of people are upset about the things that did not go well. It has taken us way too long to get testing out to the American people. It's kind of embarrassing to see how well South Korea did, and then to see us lagging so far behind. It's also, I think, a little frustrating for us to recognize that our healthcare workers don't have the protective gear they need. How could we have been so ill prepared? And that's not an indictment of this administration. It's just an indictment of Congress and government generally. Why didn't we do a better job preparing for this? And by the way, we should have closed off European travelers coming in here earlier than we did. So, there will be plenty of time to talk about the mistakes made. But at this stage, let's look forward and say, let's get the job done as quickly as we can and protect as many people as we can, both in health and in their paycheck.
Last question, Governor. I talked to Tony Fauci at length on Tuesday. He told me the testing issue, look, CDC screwed up. They had a technical issue. No one is to blame. And I accept that. But I also asked him in 1918 and 1920, based on the book, The Great Influenza, the disease then went through 12, quote, passages. I use the term iterations, and emerged more deadly on the other end from spring to fall of 1918. This virus could do the same thing. Are you telling your colleagues this might not be the beginning of the end, it might be the end of the beginning?
I think there is a recognition of that. At the same time, Hugh, I think one aspect of this disease that's encouraging, and that is that very young and young people seem not to have anywhere near the same kind of mortality as older people, which suggests at some point the older people are going to need to make sure they stay in place and they self-quarantine, but younger people are going to be able to get back and get this economy going again, keep our jobs. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to be able to turn the corner. Don't know when, but I think at some point here we're going to be able to make a change.
Oh, I lied. One more question. You were governor of the Commonwealth, the greatest medical industrial complex, Mass General. Brigham, you know all these hospitals. Do you expect American medicine and science to catch up with this disease sooner rather than later?
It's not going to be at the hospitals. It has to be in these what our Democrats call the dreaded pharma companies. But it's the pharma guys who do so much of the research. And, of course, there are labs at the hospitals and teaching institutions that will also be doing research. But, we've never been able to figure out how to stop the common cold or how to stop the common flu. So, I'm hoping for a cure. I'm hoping for treatment. I'm hoping for vaccines. But I think we have to proceed whether or not we have those answers in hand.
Senator Mitt Romney, Governor Mitt Romney, thanks. Keep coming back. Appreciate your working on this around the clock.
Thank you so much, Hugh. Good to be with you.